Hello everyone. Today we have a multi-millionaire on our show. So basically, as you know, this is your host Ali from Lunch with Ecommerce Villa, and I was kind of thinking about taking a break for at least a couple of months from podcasting. But I happened to connect with Phil on the LinkedIn, and as I studied more about his background and his successful entrepreneurial journey, I just said to myself that I have to talk to this guy and I must invite him to our show. So, telling you a bit about Phil, I mean, if I try to summarize of what he really does, I would say he just creates companies, he creates and sells companies. So he's an author, he's an investor, he's a brand owner, he loves pets, and he's a family guy as well. So I think it's going to be an awesome episode. Let's give a warm welcome to Phil. Phil, thank you so much for joining. We would love to know a bit more about your entrepreneurial journey and what you are doing, with around Amazon and other stuff.
Yeah, my entrepreneurial journey started when I was 27 years old. I founded my first business when I was 27, and it was in the food business. It was in food retail, a specialty food shop in New York, and it was a disaster. It was a total disaster. It was my first. I was young. I thought that I knew everything, and I wasn't a good leader. I wasn't a good strategist. I wasn't a good allocator of resources, and I wound up selling it. I mean, I sold it for a profit, but it was not nearly. I mean, I could have gone to work for the 3 years I had the business. I could have gone to work for somebody and made more money, but I took the money and I went to graduate school, get my MBA, and because I thought that was going to solve everything, that was going to help me, and it did to a certain extent. It helped me, I think, on the analytical side, but I got involved then with another company in the food business down in the Washington, D.C. market. And from there, it was the beginning of the internet. So it was the beginning of e-commerce, the beginning of the internet. Amazon was out there, a couple of other things, but we started to sell food online. And this was back in 1998. So we were one of the first food retailers online, and it was a different world because we didn't have Amazon. You didn't really have a lot of SEO tools. You didn't have advertising. It was really about the domain and what people were looking for and things like that. I mean, there were some ways to get them there, but and we did okay. And the whole business got acquired because we also had a retail stores. And the business got acquired by a supermarket chain, and then from there, I built a beauty brand with a supermodel. It was called Raw Beauty, and we were selling online. We were selling on the shopping channels. We were selling on Amazon, and after they started to allow brands on other than books and music, and that was sort of my first foray into Amazon. And I think that at that point, I mean, Amazon's changed dramatically since then, but at that point, it was good because you had a lot of people coming there, a lot of people that were intrigued with it, and so we were in a really good position, I think, to sell on the Amazon platform. And we did that for a number of years, and then we wound up selling that brand to a bigger company. And then I started a business focused on shaving razors, which we also sold on Amazon. Um, and then, from there, we sold that business, but I've worked with others. So we have an agency called Crunch Growth where we help a lot of people, a lot of brands sell on Amazon, big, medium size, large size, doesn't matter. But we're entrepreneurs at heart. So we also develop our own brands, and we also get involved as an investor with some smaller brands that we think we can help if they need capital, but we also think we can help with our marketing knowledge and our abilities. Then we'll get involved in sort of trade trade services for equity and that type of thing, which we've done successfully. So we're constantly. I mean, there's not been a time, I think, since 2006 that I haven't been selling on Amazon in a big way. So
Yeah, awesome, awesome. You were talking about building the beauty brand with the help of a supermodel. Tell us more about that. I mean, how was she involved in the process? Is it like he was an influencer, or how did that look like?
no, she was actually a partner in the business. And it was a very specific. It was raw, so it was one of the first raw skincare lines out there.
Mhm.
And she had written some books on raw and the raw lifestyle, and we were on the shopping channels. And the beauty of that was that, you know, using the shopping channels or selling on the shopping channels, HSN, QVC. We were also in Canada on the shopping channel in Canada. It built awareness very quickly of the brand, which helps drive the e-commerce sales, which helps drive sort of a pull strategy into retail. I'm not a big fan of brick and mortar retail when you're trying to push your products in, because you get, you're then in a position where you're at their mercy. But if you build a big enough brand or a strong enough brand online, and on other channels, then they come to you and they want your product. Then you're in a better negotiating position. You're not paying slotting fees. You're not paying rebates, discounts, accruals, that type of stuff. So, um, but it was successful in that way because we had her. She was the face of the brand, so she was out there selling on the shopping channels. But it just, that helped build the awareness all around, to a certain extent, all around the world.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So, you're talking about how to build a successful brand, and I see you always talk about, not only leveraging Amazon, but take your brand beyond Amazon into a lot of you guys are doing a lot with social media marketing and the TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. How important it is to build a strategy, which to build an all-around strategy rather than just putting up your product to Amazon and just doing PPC. Just put some light in that.
In my experience, I know that and again, we're talking about building brands, not just reselling existing products or existing brands.
Yeah.
A lot of guys out there that are resellers that can buy, Tide and start to resell it, or buy shaving. We don't do that. We build brands, and that's a little bit more difficult. So, you need to focus on the entire e-commerce ecosystem when you're doing that, because if you're just going to use Amazon. Amazon is not a great launch pad for new brands, right?
Mhm.
They've tried a couple of different ways, but so you need to build awareness off of Amazon. The customer needs to hear about your product in other ways. One of the biggest ways that I think people should focus on is trying to get as much press as possible.
Yeah.
Getting your product in, magazines, online, obviously, but magazines, and get talked about by, you know, influence. When you say the word influencer, I think people look at strictly e-commerce or strictly social media, and they look at these people that are, on there saying, I can, you know, give me your product and I'll make a quick video. And that has some influence, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about influence from bigger sources. I think the press is a big influence, right? Television is an influence, news is an influence. So when I look at PR, I look at it in terms of influence, because they influence the consumer, they influence their behavior, and they influence what they see and what they know.
Yeah.
So I think that everybody who's starting a brand, whether you're selling it on Amazon, your e-commerce site, I think everybody should focus on trying to get your product talked about in the press, right? And
Yeah.
then certainly influencers, but I think you have to be very clear and focused on your influencer strategy. Some people try and go broad with just give me as many influencers as possible, for the least amount of money, but it doesn't always work well, because they don't have a vested interest in it. One day they're talking about, socks, and the next thing they're talking about food, and the next day they're talking about electronics. It doesn't work that way. I think YouTube and some of the YouTube people that have shows are better influencers than what you see on social media, so to speak. Just
Okay.
And so I do focus on that. Anybody who can talk about your product, if you're doing podcasts, like we've done a tremendous amount of podcast advertising, not just ads, but we want it to be more, we want you to have the product and talk about the product and use the product. So, you know, people have to hear about your product in other ways because Amazon you could spend a tremendous amount of money just doing Amazon ads in different ways
Yeah.
and not get the return you need. So, um, yeah, so I think that's what you have to sort of focus on. Um, yeah.
Yeah, you talked about press releases, and I do a lot of podcasts as well with other guys, and there are very few people who are utilizing the press releases. I mean, a lot of people are doing Amazon PPC for their launches. Some are using influencers here and there, but I would like you to stretch more on the importance of press releases and generally. How much actually it costs to use press releases. And I know the press release is not something that gives you returns right away because it's more kind of a thing which takes some time, and it's about visibility, and it's kind of a brand awareness which gives you returns later down the road, rather than just giving you sales right away. And maybe that's the reason why people are not understanding the importance of these. So just tell us more about press releases and why it is so essential, and what are the benefits that you can get from the press releases.
Well, there's a lot of benefits to it, right? If you're in the press, you're getting backlinks to your site, right? Usually
Yeah,
from high domain authority sites, so it boosts your SEO.
yeah,
Um, it's evergreen content because it's not going away. If
yeah,
somebody writes a story about your product or includes you in a list of the best whatever you're selling, the best of 2023, the best hot sauce, the best pasta sauce, whatever it is, and so it becomes evergreen content because it sits out there. It's not converting to well. It depends on how you go about it, right? And there's costly ways to do it, and then there's not costly ways to do it.
oh,
I'm a big proponent of, the lean startup mentality. When you start up a brand, you do as much work as you can for yourself before you start spending money to make sure that your product is working and that you can get the sales out of it. So, it doesn't take much to start hitting a lot of press. You can do it yourself or you can hire a PR agency. My
yeah,
advice is you get somebody who can write really well. And again, today between AI and Grammarly and a good editor, you can write great pitches fairly
yeah,
easy, right? And
hmm,
then you get somebody to start going out and finding the right publications to pitch to. If you've got a nutraceutical product, or you can pitch all men's health, women's health, all those types of magazines, and eventually somebody's going to respond, right? Because that's what your PR firms are doing. And then once you get some traction for the company, then you can hire a PR firm. You hire a small PR firm that's a little scrappy, somebody that's not charging big New York rates or LA rates,
yeah,
and then but you're right, it's not going to convert immediately
yeah,
because they work out 3 months, 6 months. But when the story hits, it hits in a big way. The other thing to do is, and I'll tell you a good story. When we started razors,
uh-huh,
when we started the razor business, you know, we were we were trying all kinds of things to get traffic to both Amazon and to the website, and it wasn't working. Right? We had the same type of story. Why are you paying so much for razors? Yada yada. And well, what happened was we we're baseball fans, and so we saw that there was this pitcher, Brian Wilson, who used to pitch for the San Francisco Giants, and he got traded to Los Angeles Dodgers. He got an injury, Tommy John surgery, hadn't pitched in a year. He was going to pitch that night for the first time, right? And it just sparked the idea because he had this epic beard. So if you go back and you look, you can Google it. It's still out there. Phil Masiello, 800 Razors, Brian Wilson. You'll see all these articles come up. So anyway, we we sent an offer to his people. We found out who his management was, right? So we
Yeah.
sent an offer to his people and said, we want to pay Brian Wilson $1 million to shave off his beard with our razor. Now, we knew A, that he wasn't going to shave off his beard. B, we put some stipulations, like we wanted it to be done on the pitching mound at LA Dodger Stadium, and Major League Baseball controls that, and they would have never let that happen. So we knew that. So we knew that it wasn't going to happen, but we didn't care. What we really needed back was an email that said from his people, we will run this by Brian. That's all we needed. So once we got that, we just pushed it out to all the news stations and said, we're in discussions with Brian Wilson to shave off his beard for $1 million with our razor. Well, the next thing you know, again, if you Google it, and that was several years ago, right? If you Google it, it's still out there. There's probably 100 articles from all around the world about this baseball player who got offered $1 million to shave off his beard. So all of a sudden, social media at the time, which was really just focused on Facebook and I don't even think Instagram was out yet, but all of a sudden our social media blows up, where we're getting people sending us pictures of every body part they had, saying, I'll shave this for 10,000, I'll shave this for 20,000. So it just exploded, and we started getting orders, for the product, right? On both Amazon and on our website. So he turns it down. So we're getting all this press, we're getting interviewed everywhere. Why would you do something like this? People were outraged that this guy who's already making millions, why would we offer him $1 million? All that stuff. So then the guy turns it down. So he's coming out of a gym in LA, and TMZ catches him coming out of the gym, and they say, are you going to shave your beard off for $1 million? He says, I'm not shaving my beard off for anything. So it exploded again, because all of a sudden everybody's outraged that this guy would turn down $1 million. So it lasted about a good 2 weeks, but it really launched us, because it started the whole sales cycle. And once we got that, once we were in the press, that press lasted. Like I said, it's still out there. And we sold that company, a couple of years ago. And, that press is still out there. And that press was still driving business 3 years or 4 years after it aired. So to me, I'm always looking for somebody who's going to think outside the box. And I think this affects social media as well. You see it on TikTok. People do things on TikTok that get attention and go viral, right? They get in the press, but it's difficult to do. But you got to really think about it. But that's how I think that's one of the keys to really launching on social media.
Yeah, that's incredible. Especially the way how you reached that celebrity. The creativity there was just amazing. And yeah, generally, if you talk about the press release, how often do you need to do press releases? If you talk about monthly, like how often should you do that?
Well, if you're
In the launch stage.
if you're launched and you're driving sales and you've got a business, I would keep a PR firm on retainer, because you're always doing something. You always want to get into press. Here's a good example, right? Starbucks, who's got stores everywhere. Everybody knows Starbucks, right? A couple of months ago, they came out with this idea that people should have olive oil in their coffee, right? And everybody starts talking about it. There's discussions in the press. There's discussions on social media about it. Starbucks could care less about olive oil and coffee. They just, how often can you talk about Starbucks in the press at this point? What are you going to talk about? Their new recyclable cups, this and that. So Starbucks is always trying to come up with something to be in the press, right? Now there's discussion about Starbucks changing their ice. Now, I go to Starbucks. I know a lot of people go to Starbucks. Yeah. It wouldn't even occur to me that they changed their ice, but they've turned it into a story in the press. So now people are discussing Starbucks and the ice change, right? So they're always in the press, and they're always in the top of people's minds. And that's what you really want to get out of press. So for me, if you have a brand and that brand is going, I would have a PR firm on staff, and I would constantly be pitching stories about my brand. And, when you look at any great company that's, ballooned, right? That's grown, whether you're talking about the unicorns that get over $1 billion and all those, they're always in the press, always in the press. People are always talking about them. So if you're intent on building a brand, I think you always have to be in the press.
Yeah, absolutely. I just can't agree with you more. So, I mean, if you have a product, I mean, if you have a beauty product, let's take an example. Like if I'm selling, let's say eyelashes, magnetic eyelashes, what kind of press release is more likely to, gain attraction and, like, is it like, is there any way how you can make these press releases more effective?
Well, it depends. It depends on the product you have, right? So if it's focused on consumers, you always want to understand the benefit to the consumer. What is dry, why would the consumer want this product? Why is consumer going to buy this product?
Yeah.
And then you want to target your ads towards, or you want to target your press towards the influence places, whether it's magazines or news or online news or YouTube influencers or whatever, that are going to be able to push that message through. So it really is product. It's really depends on the product you're focused on, right? As to what kind of press you want to get, right? If it's a SaaS product, then you want to be in the technology side all over the place. You want to know who's going to be looking for that. If it's a business to business proposition, then you want to be in the business press, which is in a lot of cases, trying to get into the business press is a heck of a lot easier than trying to get in the consumer press.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one thing. I mean, press release is one thing which is part of the launch strategy that you are recommending people. What else do you feel like is important to have a successful launch? I mean, press release itself is such a huge thing, and if you can catch the attention of the press, then your chances of success really go skyrocket. But what else do you feel like in 2023? If somebody is looking to create a brand that is doing at least at least $100,000 a month, what how would the strategy look like?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you really have to focus on the entire ecosystem, right? So you want to run ads on Amazon, but you want to make sure that you keep to your spend, right? You want to make sure your ACOS is where you need it to be because you can seriously overspend on Amazon very quickly. Same thing with meta ads, right? If you're focused on meta, but you have to think about what you're trying to accomplish. If it's just awareness, right? Awareness ads like on social media are inexpensive clicks. So if you can afford to put money at awareness ads because you're trying to get the message out about your product and who you are and what you're doing, then I say spend some money on meta ads, spend some money on digital ads, whether it's Google Shopping. Google Shopping to us is a very obviously it's a very high converting channel because it's low funnel, right? It's
Yeah.
bottom of the funnel. People are typing in what they want. So I think you have to do multiple things, but the place where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck that's going to help drive everything is going to be building awareness outside of Amazon, outside of your website, outside of social media somehow. And again, think outside the box and think about what you can do that's going to get you in the press, that's going to get you recognized for what you're doing, right? You see these guys nowadays. Dollar Shave Club, I think, was the first one that really did it well with that video. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if not, you should go and Google Dollar Shave Club video. I mean, that thing just exploded on social media way back in 2011, I think. And it was it was a funny video and very irreverent humor. And now you see all these guys like the t-shirt guys that are trying to make everybody, they want to be irreverent. So, the guy says, "Oh, this t-shirt makes me look fat." He goes, "No, it doesn't." He smacks him. I mean, they're trying to be like, okay, well, maybe somebody will pick this up and run with it, but they don't because it's not as funny. But I think anytime that you can make something funny, right, make a video or whatever, and today it's much easier to do, and especially with the tools that are out there. But I think if you have a good grasp of who your customer is and you continue to try things on social media, because you want to be able to get people to start sharing your content. If they can share your content, right, then you're getting views that you're not paying for. But you have to think outside the box. So if you're just a Me Too company and you've got a product like, if I came out with a new bottle, right? Yeti's got Yeti's got brand recognition, but let's say I come out with a new, drink water cooler bottle, right? I mean, it's sort of a Me Too product. You'd have to do something really, really fantastic on social, to get there. And I think like Duolingo, when you look at their channel on TikTok, I think they do a really good job of making people laugh. They've got the Duolingo owl that chases people around the office and does some things. They're not doing that because they think that that's going to go and get people to sign up for Duolingo. What it's doing is people share that content. So Duolingo is at top of mind. So when people do say, hey, I'm going to go on a trip to Italy, I want to learn another language, you always immediately think about Duolingo, right? Or at least I do, because I've seen their videos so often because people share it. They think it's funny and irreverent humor. So I think you have to use the tools around you, even on Amazon today with video ads. I think you have to use the tools around you to do something that's out of the ordinary to get attention, to break through the clutter.
Yeah, yeah. So, as we are talking about the marketing side, where are the opportunities present on Amazon in terms of the product selection? I mean, is it important or is it necessary for you to build $1 million brand that your product is also very, is differentiated, or you feel like that even a product which is kind of a Me Too one, but if you are doing some extraordinary job from the marketing side, you can get there. So, how important is the product differentiation part, and what are like are there any cool ways you can share us with us? You can share with us.
Well, you're always going to, unless you have some sort of a unique proposition to a Me Too product, I think it's really difficult to go after. There are guys out there, right, that ride the wave and they can be successful at it, right? You see I think a good example is like indoor rowers, right?
Yeah.
You had Concept 2 and you had Water Rower that pretty much dominated the market. And then during COVID, when everybody was buying, exercise equipment for their house, all of a sudden you started to see all these Me Too rowers pop up. They were just a different design, but it was the same functionality. Did they do okay? I don't know the specifics, but I think they probably sold some product, right? You can see guys out there selling, trying to feed off of Peloton with other indoor cycles and things like that. When you get into smaller areas like just I don't know, maybe household products or things like that, I
Yeah.
think you can do okay. But generally, if you're not the leading brand, then you're focused on price, right? So you got to have you have to have some sort of a sourcing capability, right? It's just like the resellers, right? The only resellers I've ever seen in my life that are successful are the guys that have some sort of supply chain advantage, right? Maybe they're hooked up to a wholesaler, maybe they're
Mhm.
part of a wholesaler or something like that. This whole thing about going out and doing, online arbitrage and, buying products, to me, those guys don't make it very long. It's very difficult to do. But I see guys out there with knockoff razors, right? Electric razors, and they go overseas, they find a razor inexpensive. They come up with some strategy for it. It's got a lighter, it's got this or it's that, and they do quite well. So I mean, I think you have to have some point to talk about. You can't just say, hey, I've got another razor and it's just cheaper. I don't think you can do that. I think you have to come up with something. Um, but I'm a big fan of coming up with something unique. Like a friend of mine developed this product for a leg injury. He was a runner and he injured his leg and he came up with this product, got patents on it and all that. And he does amazing business on Amazon. He's gotten a lot of press on his website. He does amazing business. But his biggest concern is he's got to move quickly because he knows people are going to start to knock off his product. And you know
Yeah.
how it is on Amazon. Somebody will try and hijack his listings, and somebody will try and tap into his listings, or claim that they have the same product, whatever. So you have to be careful and you have to move quick and you have to do things to protect yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Phil, this this has been a very good episode. So tell us more about your journey. I mean, as you have sold multiple brands and multiple companies, and I think most of those are related to the e-commerce. I mean, what increases the value of your brand? I mean, especially when you are selling it, what really contributes to, or I should say, help you to sell it at a better value? I mean, is it the overall strategy, or what would you say on that?
Well, you can you look historically, right? And I
Yeah,
think, are you asking about selling the company after you've built it or selling the
yeah,
brand after you built it? Just,
absolutely.
yeah, if you go back and look historically, right? Products, product companies, they sell at a multiple of profit. A brand sells at a multiple of sales. So you're always going to get bigger value from selling a brand than selling just a product, right?
Yeah,
So, to me, it's always about trying to figure out how to sell the brand and what's the brand stand for, because that nobody can replicate. They may be able to replicate your product, but they can't replicate necessarily your brand, right? And you build trust with that brand. Nobody can go out. A lot of people can replicate cola, but nobody can replicate Coca-Cola, right? Nobody can replicate, some of the, Gillette. You can come up with a better razor, but nobody's going to be able to replicate Gillette. Even Amazon, or brands that, that have built a good reputation that people trust. One of the reasons Amazon does so well and why it's so important is because people trust it. And I'll say it again. Like a couple of years ago, well, it's probably about 8 years ago now, we did a study with Crunch Growth. We did a study of 200. We studied the shopping patterns of consumers on over 200 brands, and we watched how, when they saw an ad, what behavior they did. And we know that they went to the website, they looked at the website to see if, and these weren't known brands, they were like startup brands or new brands or brands that weren't like, we didn't do Gillette or anything like that. And when customers see the ad that interests them, they go to the website. They look at the website. They want to make sure that it's a legitimate site, that it's not a scam. Then they go and look at social media, and they're looking at social media to see how are you interacting with your base. And then if they're still interested, they buy the product on Amazon. And they buy the product on Amazon because they trust Amazon. They're not afraid to give their credit card credentials over to Amazon, and it's easy. Amazon's made it simple, right? Not the best product pages in the world, but Amazon's made the whole process simple. And
yeah,
so you look at that and you say, okay, well, now I'm building a brand, and really my most profitable sale is on my website versus Amazon. But I've got customers that are first time or second time buyers buying on Amazon. So now I have to try and do some things, as many communication pieces as Amazon will allow me to do, to get those people to remember my brand so that they come to my website eventually,
yeah.
because that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, as you talked about their study, I mean, were you able to find that what percentage of people actually also check the brand's website and social media pages before buying from the Amazon? Like, is there any certain number, or most of the buyers do that? What's the trend in that?
Well, it was. I'd have to pull up I haven't looked at it in so long, but I think it was 82%. I believe it was 82% of the people. Um, it's actually on our website somewhere, but I think it's 82% of the brands, of the consumers that saw an ad, showed interest in the ad, went to the website, went to social media, went to Amazon. How much purchased? I don't remember what the purchase
Yeah.
thing, but you know,
So, is it relevant for the people who just saw your ad maybe on the social media platform, or there are customers who just start their search on it? Like, there are a lot of customers who just start their search on Amazon. Like, do they also tend to check the websites of the different brands before purchasing from them?
yeah, that's interesting too. So, I think that Amazon does a lot of things really, really well. I think the storefront has come a long way. I think that the product pages, especially the A+ pages, I think
Yeah.
are really well. But definitely customers go back and forth, because you can see it in analytics, where they'll leave Amazon come to your site. You can see where they came to your site from Amazon. Then they exit and go back to Amazon. So, what they're looking for, I think, is either more information, legitimacy, other products you sell. It's always about legitimacy, right? It's always about to
Yeah.
make sure that I think people today are very hesitant that they're going to get scammed when they see something new, or the old, it's too good to be true. So I'm looking for, how are people reacting? Let me go to social media and see how people are reacting. Let me look at the reviews on the site. I think people are skeptical nowadays about Amazon reviews because they've heard so much about fake reviews and that type of thing. So
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, people bounce around. There's no question about it. So that's why I say, when you're doing something, you have to think about your whole e-commerce ecosystem and all the things you're doing and how it looks. And, your storefront should sort of reflect what's happening on your website. Your emails that are going out to consumers should look the same as your website. Everything sort of has to go together. Your social media has to look the same, right? So
Yeah.
when you're doing whatever you can do to manipulate Google Shopping, the shopping ads, which I
Yeah.
think, again, Google Shopping ads are very, very powerful. But then again, even if we have product on that we're selling on Amazon, FBA, or even merchant fulfilled, Amazon's going to run ads on Google Shopping, right? They've got a feed going. So if somebody types in a product, they'll pop, you'll see all the images, and it'll show your website, Amazon, so people can even if you're running the ads on the Google Shopping platform, customers may still buy it on Amazon. So Amazon has some attribution that you can check that, but it's not really been great.
Yeah. So, people are talking about, let's talk about the Amazon. People are now talking about that the Walmart is also emerging. And I was checking the stats, and Walmart is growing as fast as Amazon was growing, I think, in 2011 or 10. So, what do you think that for how long Amazon is still going to be the biggest choice for the end consumer, for the end customers? Like, would they continue to trust Amazon, and or do you think that there will be a shift in a pattern where people might be start buying from the websites from the Walmarts? What's the future of Amazon itself?
Well, I mean, I think Amazon has its issues with,
Yeah.
some fees and some costs and some things like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I don't care who you are, Walmart is never going to shake the fact that Amazon is so embedded in the consumer's mind.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody who has a Walmart app on their phone that they can, click and buy when they think of something. The minute somebody hears about something that they want, or they think about something that they want, I did it this morning. My daughter said something about she wants to try something, and we need to buy a pan for it for the kitchen. So, I didn't bother looking. I just went to Amazon, looked it up, and bought it. And we help people sell on Walmart.com as well. We do
Yeah.
a lot of the issues. I mean, Walmart. Walmart.com is not as sleek as Amazon. It's not as well. Um, it's not as well organized as Amazon. I don't
Yeah.
think that they've done a good enough job with the seller portion of Walmart.com. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. Amazon's going to struggle. Walmart's going to struggle. We're always going to have struggles in business with different things. But the reality is, I think Amazon, the last number I saw was like 92% of Americans of shopping age buy on Amazon. And you can't say that about Walmart or Target or Walgreens or anybody else. They're always going to be out there. Target, there's some products that you can buy on Target. I'm sure my wife has bought products on Target. I've bought some things on Walmart.com, but it's not, Amazon's always going to be the dominant player.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Phil, we have to be respectful of the time. Any marketing hacks that you can share with us, like we have touched a lot on the press list, or any area where you feel like there's a lot of space and this is an untapped there is an untapped potential there. People are not familiar with it, but you can really get some great results from there. So, and any marketing hacks you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people today, like, I think everybody today who's starting a brand or starting a product or anything, you have to think outside the box. You have to really think about how you're going to connect with customers, and don't listen to. I'll tell you, because I get bombarded with these ads as well. Guys telling you that they can 10x your sales if you use my system, and you can. I'll 10x your sales. Bullshit. I'm sorry, BS. It's not going to happen. You have to take control yourself. You have to understand your ecosystem for your product and your consumers, and then you have to figure out how to allocate that money and that effort and that spend into the areas, because you only have certain levers, right? You've got your email lever, you've got your Amazon lever, you've got your Walmart lever. You've got to work these levers to get your sales to where you need to be. But at the end of the day, you have to think about, how am I going to break through the clutter? How am I going to get noticed? Right? I want to be the kid in the classroom who's getting noticed by the teacher because I'm the class clown, but in a good way. Right? I don't want to be the one thrown out of class. I want to be a class clown where everybody knows my name, everybody notices me, everybody can, give somebody a laugh, but they get the point across.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, Phil, it has been a wonderful episode. Like, if somebody wants to reach you, where can they find you?
You can reach me at Phill@crunchgrowth.com. It's the easiest way. Phill@crunchgrowth.com.
Awesome, awesome, Phil. So thank you so much for coming. It was really wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a great day. And have a good weekend.